Wait, today we're gonna get started on that wiring harness that I promised you in my last video. So this is gonna be the left engine side of the wiring harness. We're gonna get everything but the lights stripped out of it. So I got a camera up here that's kind of pointing down at the table in front of me. So I'm gonna try to make this as entertaining as I can, but it's very hard to make a video about wiring harnesses entertaining. So, but I'll try my best. So let's go. Alright you guys, so let's get started. This is the harness that you're gonna see when you open up the hood on a Volvo 740 from 1990 on the right side of the engine bay, and this is what we're gonna be cleaning up today. We're gonna get rid of all the ignition stuff mostly, but we're also gonna remove some of these other connectors that come from the fuel box and the ignition box. They're kind of connected together right here. So this connector right here runs along the main wiring harness over to the right side of the car, connecting with the right side of the engine bay harness, which houses mostly the fuel stuff, and the left side here houses mostly the ignition stuff. Now I didn't make a video on the fuel side, but this is gonna be basically the same thing. I want to keep a few things, so we don't just want to cut everything off here and just keep the lights, because we need a few more things on this side. That's why I chose to kind of do this side instead of the other side, because the other side is just keep lights, that's it, nothing else. On this side it's a little bit more specific, so I thought we would go through this and we're gonna start by trying to get rid of all of the casings, all the plastic, all this tape right here. We're gonna get rid of that. And we're just gonna make this whole wiring harness bare, so we can start pulling out wires and see where they go. And there might be some hidden connectors underneath the plastic here, so we want to be sure that we can see the entire harness with everything. So let's start by doing that. So the way I like to go about this is just get yourself some snippers and almost cut your hand off, and just go to town on all these little stripes. I don't think they're called stripes. Zip ties, that's right. Get rid of all the zip ties, and then we can start cutting off these sleeves, these plastic things. And I've actually developed a good technique for this, so you don't, because if you go like this and try to cut it, there's a big risk that you cut the wire that is inside, and that's not a good idea. So what I found out is if you just scratch the surface up top like so, you can just pull them off. You can see all the old oil and stuff in here, so your hands are gonna get dirty. You really want to watch your fingers when doing this. You just cut it, you just gotta start it a little bit. And it pops off. We're gonna put some shielding back on here later, but we're gonna use a different type. We're gonna use like an electric sock instead of this hard plastic stuff, which is, you know, I would actually like to have this black stuff, but these black plasticky things, just to make it look a little bit more stock, but I couldn't find this stuff anywhere, so I'm just gonna have to go with the old standard stuff. And then we get to the more boring section here, which is kind of taped off. It's a bit more fiddly. I usually just try to find the end of the tape and kind of start unraveling it like normal. It seems to be the easiest way to do it. Because right here you are very tight on the wires, so you don't want to be cutting around here. That is a lot of wires, but we're gonna figure it out. How about we just start right here? This is the main thing that's gonna get removed. So basically we just follow, okay? So these wires go down here. We're not gonna need those, so we'll just snip those off right there. And then we'll just snip them off right about here. Let's get rid of that. We can remove this. And then it's just a matter of pulling these loose wires out. There we go, that's that gone. Nice to clean that up. Then we just have that piece. And then we move on along the line here. And everything that went to that, we'll just get rid of. We'll just take one thing at a time. We might wind up cutting all of these, but we don't know yet. So we'll just keep going here. This is a very fail-safe method of doing this. Get this. That. Get out there. Oh, well controlled my cars. Here's one. So next thing, I'm thinking this guy. This is to the ignition driver. So let's get this out of here because we won't be needing that. This one here. Alright, that's that one gone. Right here we have this thing, which is, I'm a little bit unsure of what it is, but we're gonna remove it. Snippy snip. I'm not going to be needing this guy to the rear washer. So we get the ground. See, everything grounds out in this single wire. That's interesting. Get rid of that. Go along here. Follow the wire. Here we go. Get rid of that guy. Oh, got this one. I don't know why I put save on that, because that's not right. Oh, this is that weird ground. The weird color. Snip that off. Follow the wires. Where are you? That's one. That's two. Where do you go? Goes over there. Take that off. Take that off. And pull it out. That's the one we need to keep. That's the one we'll get rid of. Alright, let's get rid of that. And this diagnose function, just go ahead and take that, because these wires are checked. They just run into the harness right here, so we don't need that. But save it. Pull these out, snip them off. And get to this guy. I'm actually gonna keep all of these because they all run into this connector right here. So this is probably starter, alternator, something like that. I bet this fat one is the starter. So we'll be keeping this guy, probably without this connector though. I kind of want to know. Well, I'll just check the colors, I guess. Yeah. We want to keep this one. And we'll go ahead and keep the length of these wires since we might need to re-pull them. That'll let me know that they are important. Okay, so this is to the level sensor. It has a ground wire right here, and we can't have the ground going inside this harness. We'll just remove the ground, keep the connector on here, but we're gonna have to pull it through. But black seems to usually be ground. Get that like so. Pull this blue guy out. And then we'll put it back once we get past this, because I don't feel like cutting this. I've done that in the past, but I think they don't fit right afterwards. Put that back. We're going to do the same thing with the washer and the level sensor for the washer. This is the windshield washer stuff. So we'll get rid of the grounds. That's all going to be in the trunk later, so we don't need to worry about that. Okay, so what do we have left? We have the driving lights, the high beam, fog lights, ground, warn buttons. We'll keep these because they're going to be in that general area anyway. And then everything else is gone. And what is left on here, going into this big connector, is the windshield washer, the side indicator, the door switch, and the light stuff. So that's basically it. So what I'm gonna do now is just clean this stuff up a little bit. We're gonna put some protection on these connectors right here. We're gonna tidy this up a little bit. All right, so now that we've gotten this black shielding off these wires, we're gonna have to put something else back on here. And what I got is a cable sock. So I'm gonna get going on that. Basically what you need to do is just unhook these connectors, push the sock over, crimp it down. I'll show you. It's real simple. We're also gonna tape everything first so that water doesn't get into the cables. And then the sock will be more for like rubbing protection. So I'm gonna get started on this, kind of spin everything up, and I'll divide it into sections over here, and then we'll put heat shrink on. I should have started from out here and gone this way. I didn't this time, and I got wound up with some extra wire right here, so I had to kind of curl them up right here, which isn't a very good idea, but I'm gonna run with that. We'll see how it works. It's annoying anyway. It's disturbing my OCD. All right, so that's the harness all taped up. So now we're gonna put some sleeve on. I don't know what this is called. Braided cable sock. We're gonna be using that because it's cheap and readily available. We're gonna pull the connectors off of these guys, and then we're gonna push the sock. We're gonna start with this piece right here. So we're gonna put a sock on here first, crimp that down, and then we'll put a sock on this little guy, and this guy, this guy, this guy, that guy. And then we'll just shrink everything together. Right now it's a good idea to take a picture of these so you know how to put them back. We get the sock and then we calculate our desired length. So something like that. Now that this has been cut, you want to make sure you burn the edge a little bit. Try not to burn your fingers. That way it's not gonna run away on you. That's just as simple as putting this guy on here. And we're gonna make sure it sits all right at this end first. I'm not going to worry too much about this because this will be inside the car from this point on backwards, so it's not as important. Gosh, everything's just falling down today. Some shrink tube. There's another thing, that's great. Just cut off an appropriate size to your liking. And then we start over. Feeding this guy through. No, I can tell you right now, that's not going to work. Oh boy. Here we go, that's the first one. I gotta do it all again. There we go. Got those two on. Now we don't shrink anything before we get all of it on, so we kind of know where everything is. And some things will need to go under certain things and so on. So I'm just gonna continue on and put this braided sock over all of this, and then I'll cut back to you guys later because I think I'm running out of space on the camera. Alright, so now we have all the socks on, we have all the shrink tube. I wasn't able to get the shrink tube that I wanted on there, so I had to oversize it a little bit, so we'll see how that turns out. But I'm pretty happy with it so far, so I'm going to go ahead and start shrinking down the tubes. And I just noticed that I missed one right there. Okay, so we're basically going to work our way in a way that I don't really know. So I'm thinking, let's start up in here. Start right here in the middle of everything. Shrink these three down. Pull this sleeve over and so on. Alright you guys, so we're finally done with this side of the wiring harness. We've got it cut out just for lights, but we do have a few wires that we kind of don't know where they are gonna go, but I have figured it out where you need to stick these. So you have these 5 right here. These 5 are taken out of this connector right here. These will be some engine specific wires. We're gonna go through them in 2 seconds. You're gonna have these 3 connectors. 2 of them, the longest ones. These guys I'm gonna put in the trunk. This is for the level sensor and the windshield washer. These guys are gonna run along the harness that goes to the trunk. So I'm gonna put these into that. I'm gonna extend them and ground them on these black wires in the trunk. So we're gonna have all the windshield washer stuff in the trunk. And then you have this one, which goes to the brake level sensor. So this guy is actually gonna get its own sleeve, and it's just gonna pop out right here and go to the brake booster and the level sensor on top of the master cylinder. So I'm gonna go ahead and make that off camera, but just wanna let you guys know kind of where that goes. So it's these 3 wires, because they're all grounded, you know, separately. So you don't need to worry about the grounds. So there's those 3 wires that you don't know where they go, but now you know. And then you have these 5 that came out of this connector right here. These are the ones that was left after we cut out all the ignition stuff. So these 5 you are gonna have to put on your T5 engine. And this is basic stuff. This is engine temp, it's oil pressure, we have the starter, and we have the alternator. That is basically it that's on these 5 wires. And I have actually gone out and measured these manually on the engine outside, not to get it wrong. So number 1, this is number 1 on this connector right here. These are all numbered 1 through 53. So number 1 is going to be this guy, and that guy will come out right here. This will go to the starter motor. It will be pin number 5 in this connector that is on the left side of the engine bay. So pin 5 in this connector that goes to the engine is to the starter. Pin number 2 in this connector, pin number 16 in this connector, will go to oil pressure. It's this black guy right here. That will go to oil pressure. So we have starter, oil pressure, and then we have number 20 in this connector right here. That will be pin number 1 in this connector. That will go to the engine temp. Now, the B230 engine has 2 engine temp sensors. You have one in the front and one in the back. We're talking about the one in the front. That engine temp goes to the dial on inside the 740. So you will need to connect that. You will also need to make, we're gonna get to that as well, because we're gonna return to the engine. You're gonna have to put a temp sensor on top of the T5 engine. That will go to, I think you can take the one from a 960 actually, and that will work together with your 740 dial, but we'll get back to that. Just don't cut it off, because you'll need it right here. So pin number 1 on this guy, which will be this yellow and white cable, that'll go to pin number 1, because you have this kind of connector on the temp sensor, and these are also labeled pin number 1 and pin number 2. So this white and yellow one will go to pin number 1. Number 8 is engine temp. This is pin number 2 in this connector on the engine, and it will be pin number 8 on this one. So the white and black. And then we move on. We go to pin number 4 in this connector. It's gonna be a, oh crap, here we go with the colors again. Red, possibly. I don't know, is that red? Anyway, that guy, that goes to the generator or the alternator. So that will be the D plus on the alternator, which is basically tells the alternator to start working. This is also going to the dash, so don't worry about that. Just connect it to D plus on your T5 engine and the alternator will work just fine. So the white and black, white and yellow, these are both to the temp sensor. So that's pretty simple. 2 of those are to the temp sensor. Oil pressure, alternator, starter motor. Okay, those are the basic ones you're gonna need. Regardless of what engine you're gonna run, you will always need these 5. Here you go, here you have the pin outs. So number 1 is the starter motor. We're talking about this connector right here inside the car. Pin number 1, starter motor. Number 16 is oil pressure. Number 20 is pin number 1 on the engine temp. Pin 21 is alternator, D plus. We have pin number 22 is the second pin for the engine temp. All right. Lots of numbers, lots of pin outs and connectors, I know, but you'll figure it out. So we have these 5. And then we have these 3. Anyway, I hope you liked this video. I know it's once again a very specified video for those of you that are actually building one of these cars. I'm gonna maybe take a break from the T5 project a little bit, make maybe 1 or 2 videos on something else, because we're getting very niche down right now. But we'll be back with this whole wiring stuff when we start to connect the engine to the car and building the engine management system. Anyway, hope you guys liked it. If you did, you know what to do. Hit that like button and stuff. And I'll see you in the next video. Ha det gött! Hej!